you're looking for your forever home or an investment property, irrigation can make a huge difference in your landscaping costs, your property value, and even your day-to-day living experience. And while many buyers and agents leave this due diligence to others in the real estate transaction, the fact of the matter is that Idaho is very much a buyer beware state, meaning that it is incumbent upon you as the buyer to carefully review your documents, ask the important questions, and if needed, don on your water boots to ensure that oh so precious liquid that is being promised is actually a sure thing. Today, I will cover what you need to know to make sure that your property does indeed have irrigation water you can use. Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sylvia with Wealth Builders Realty in Boise, Idaho. I am a realtor, an investor, and a property manager with over 20 years in the game. And on this channel, I aim to help you build generational wealth through residential real estate investment. We cover buying and selling, best practices for renting your property, and tips on how to use the IRS tax code to save you thousands on your taxes. And today we are covering something that might not be on your radar when you're buying in Idaho: irrigation rights. So let's get to it. Let's start at the very beginning and talk about what irrigation is and why it is an important detail to pay attention to when you are looking for your next property. Here in Idaho, irrigation water for landscaping doesn't come from your tap. It comes from our canals, and that water starts as snow melt from our mountains. All water in the state of Idaho is owned by the state and controlled through local irrigation districts. Irrigation water is significantly less expensive than having to connect to the city and pay for metered water. And connecting your sprinklers to the city comes with some extra costs, which we will cover in more detail later. Whether your property can actually use this irrigation water depends on three things. First, if it's within the boundaries of an irrigation district. Second, if water shares are available for that property. And most importantly, number three, if the water is deliverable to your lot. These are the three questions you need to have answered and verified before you close escrow. So how do you know if your property is within the irrigation district? Well, your first clues will lie in the documents you review on said property. First from your realtor and then from the title company. In our role as realtors, when we take a listing, we collect a couple of documents from our sellers that give us relevant information for the property, including irrigation. The first is called the MLS Residential Data Form. On this form, we ask our clients how they irrigate their landscaping. Do they have a full sprinkler system? Or is the lawn watered manually through a water hose? Or is it connected to irrigation, a well, or city water? And based on their answer, we check the appropriate boxes, which are then sent out on the MLS description that you see on your real estate search. The second form that we collect is the seller's property condition disclosure form, also known as the RE25. Per section 552501 of our Idaho Code, any seller of residential property must fill out this form and make it available to the buyer of their property within 10 calendar days from an accepted offer. This 4-page form, as the name implies, is where the seller will disclose the condition of the property. This is where you might find information on how old the roof is and whether the seller has had any leaks or problems with mold. They will also answer specific questions about water sources to the property. If there is an irrigation district that sends them a bill, sellers are able to note that on the form. This disclosure form is usually uploaded as a document on MLS, and as a buyer, you can review it if it is made publicly available by the listing agent. If you don't see it on your MLS view, ask your realtor to inquire about it. It may not be available yet, or the listing agent did not make it public. If you decide to make an offer on the property, you will need to sign off on this form indicating that you reviewed what was disclosed and are okay with moving forward. Now, there are a couple exceptions to this section code requirement which may obscure your answer to whether the property has irrigation or not. The first one is if the seller of record has passed away and their personal representative or trustee is now in charge of the sale. The second exemption allowed is for builders of new construction homes. Their disclosure form will only require them to address possible annexation from the city if the property is not already within the city limits. Quick note here for you investors. Even though you may buy your rental sight unseen, hire a manager to run it, and thus never step foot in it, you are not exempt from filling out a seller's property condition disclosure form. And even though, I don't know, is a viable answer on the form, failing to disclose an important detail on this form could expose you to serious liability. Do yourself a favor and stay on top of your rental's condition. Keep records of repairs and capital expenditures. I always tell my clients, when in doubt, Disclose, disclose, disclose. Now, if the property you are buying doesn't have information on irrigation on either of these documents, don't worry. You have a third document coming your way when you get under contract, and that is a title commitment report provided to you by the title and escrow company. You will get this document usually within the first 6 days of your escrow. As you may know, the title company is in charge of ensuring you will be the only person entitled to ownership of the property when you buy it. It is their job to research liens that have been recorded against the property and get those paid at closing. For example, property taxes, HOAs, mechanic liens, and of course, water liens that can result from unpaid city water or irrigation bills. So when you get your title commitment in the exceptions, you will see irrigation companies noted. You might also see recorded irrigation district easements on the commitment and on the plat map of your lot. When you see this, you will know your property is indeed within an irrigation district. Title will reach out to the district and see if there is a balance owed and if there are transfer fees associated with moving those water shares over to you as the next owner. Keep in mind that even though the transfer is from owner to owner, the water belongs to the property and doesn't follow the owner from one property to the next. Now, most buyers and agents will stop their investigation here. They see they are part of the district and assume that when they close, they will have this inexpensive irrigation water coming out of their water hose or sprinklers. Don't do that. You can't be like most when it comes to irrigation. If your title commitment shows you within a particular irrigation district, now is the time to start the verification process. Your first call should be to the irrigation district. Don't worry, in Idaho, this is a very easy phone call to make. The irrigation district will need the address to verify that your property is indeed within their district. Don't be surprised if you are told that your property is now part of a different irrigation district than what was listed on your title commitment. This can happen for a variety of reasons, and no need to fret that an irrigation lien could be missed. The title company's new practice is to reach out to all the relevant districts to ensure any and all liens are taken care of. Now, say you call and confirm that you are speaking with the right district. It isn't enough to ask if you are in the district. You want to know if your particular property has water shares available. Let's cover what happens if you do not have shares first. How does this happen? Usually, somewhere along the line, the owner of the property opted out of paying for irrigation. Maybe the water was not easy to access. After all, not all properties have the luxury of pressurized irrigation. If they chose to simply use city water to water their lawn, they may not have seen the point in paying the irrigation bill. In this case, you will want to know if there is a way that you can recover those shares. Every district's answer will be different. As a general recommendation, I encourage clients to continue to pay for the irrigation for the simple reason that maybe one day easier access will be made, or more importantly, the person who buys your home may want to have access to the water. A property with water rights will almost always be worth more in the eyes of an Idaho buyer than one with no water rights. And when you are buying a property with acreage, this becomes even more important. So back to our water inquiry. If you are told you do have water shares available, now you have to see if it is actually deliverable. At this point, the irrigation district personnel will most likely direct you to the water master for your property. Keep that number saved. Your water master will be able to tell you two things: if they show that water is deliverable to your property, and if your lot is on a particular watering schedule. Whether they tell you that you do or don't have water delivered, your next step will be to verify through your own physical inspection. There will be two ways for you to verify if irrigation can be accessed at your lot. The first will be to actually walk the property for signs of irrigation equipment. You may have already done this when you first toured the property, but if it didn't make your radar, you can do this when you do your home inspection review. Maybe even enlist the help from your home inspector. And in fact, many home inspection companies will handle this indirectly through their sprinkler inspection. There is an added cost for some companies to do this, and of course, this can only be done during the irrigation season, which runs between mid-April to mid-October, depending on how much snow we get. During this inspection, check to see if you see any signs of leaking. If there is no sprinkler system, can you connect a water hose to the irrigation hookup and turn it on? If there is no sign of a pressurized system, is there a concrete box where you can drop a pump and bring it up and out onto your lawn? Maybe there is only an open ditch with water flowing through it. You want to ensure that there is a method for you to actually get water to where it needs to go, your lawn. If there is no access point, then you might want to reach back out to your water master to determine if there's a way for him to point out where a connection point could exist. Now, earlier I mentioned that builders are not required to give you a property disclosure form with information on irrigation. However, under Idaho Code Section 67-6537, Any new home must be connected to irrigation water if it is available. And in fact, many subdivisions and building permits can be denied if the developer or builder does not make provisions to use the available irrigation water first. If you buy or build with one of our local builders, there is usually pressurized irrigation available for your landscaper to connect to. You want to ask your project manager at your final walkthrough where that connection point is, especially if your new build does not include landscaping. Note that even if you don't connect to the available irrigation, you will still most likely have the irrigation bill. Now, it is very rare, but what happens if there are no irrigation shares available? Well, that leaves you with two options: wells and city water, both of which will require you to have a backflow installed to keep any harmful bacteria from your lawn contaminating the water that goes into your tap for drinking. Let's cover wells first. Wells can be private or shared. Having a well does not preclude you from having irrigation rights. You can have both. In fact, if you have a private well, you can only irrigate up to half an acre of land and up to 13,000 gallons per day. So let me reiterate that if you are buying a property with land, irrigation water is super important. On the other hand, you might be buying a parcel where all your water comes from a well that is shared with one or more neighbors. If this is the case, please make sure there is a recorded shell well agreement in place that you can review. Many times we find that there is no more than a handshake agreement between owners, with no real guidance as to what happens when things go sideways. It is incumbent on you to force the issue and figure out a way to get a shared well agreement drafted up. Don't be afraid to take the initiative and hire an attorney to draft it. Make sure you address what happens if a gate breaks or if the pump malfunctions. How do the repairs get paid for and split? How often does the water quality get tested and by whom? And what happens if the water itself has an issue? How often can you water your lawn? And should there be a schedule put together so as to not deplete the well or impact the water pressure that anybody gets to their interior faucets? Please ensure that all the parties using the well sign in agreement, not just the seller who you are buying the property from. And also make sure that you get this document recorded with the county. Your title company can help you with this. Another option for water might be community wells that feed small subdivisions. Usually guidelines for water usage are part of the HOA bylaws, and in many cases, your HOA dues will cover the maintenance and repair of the wells, as well as any water tests and treatment. Usually these community wells are tested more frequently. Your HOA documents should make note of when that was last done, and you should be able to have your agent request the most recent test results to make sure you're not drinking arsenic-filled water. Although private wells are normally tested when they are sold, it is recommended that you get a yearly test for your water. I will drop the link below to Analytical Labs in downtown Boise, a water testing facility. They have a whole slew of tests they can run, from coliform, E. coli, arsenic, nitrates, and nitrites. If you're concerned about what you are drinking, please get them tested. Note, this is a great time to reiterate why irrigation water is so valuable. No expensive water tests, no costly treatments if it's compromised, no backflow permits and installations, and yearly testing when you connect to city water. Just inexpensive water delivered when your lawn needs it. All right, friends, if you're looking to purchase property, whether that be in a subdivision or out in the country with acreage, please make note of where your water is coming from. Our great state of Idaho provides us with a natural resource at a very inexpensive cost. All you need to do is ensure that the property you are buying has access to it. If you're looking to buy property in the Boise metro area of Idaho, we are here to be a resource for you. You can find our contact information in the description or visit us at our website to get in touch. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.